In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a boring background image like this into a fully fledged wallpaper like this. For the creation, it will only take 5 steps, and there's only 4 things you need. One is Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator. Both you can find alternatives for, which I'll link in the description. And you'll also need one background image as well as a character. Alright, so the first 2 steps is going to revolve around Photoshop. So first thing we're going to do is, because we want to go into something aesthetic, we're going to first find an image that it doesn't necessarily need to be in that aesthetic. For example, we're going to go for orange for this one, but we're going to color grade it in which it'll become aesthetic. So first thing we want to do is go to filter, camera raw filter, and we're going to go first place with the basic settings, and we're going to be dealing with the whites, blacks, clarity, and dehaze. So for the whites, we're gonna go all the way till where this becomes white. We're gonna start going down. We want to go down to the point where we can actually still see detail in the clouds here. That's usually the best indicator. Other indicators is just being able to see the detail, holding as white as possible. All right. So I think around this is good. For the blacks, if you can see the trees in this case, pretty black. Yeah, we don't want that. Because we're going for aesthetic, we're gonna make sure this is gonna be really bright. So we're gonna go up and up and up and up. I'll say this is good. The reason why we're doing this is because we're gonna actually be doing the aesthetics part next. And you're gonna notice it's very grainy. We don't want that. So we're gonna go into dehaze. And I'm gonna bring it up just a bit. That's around 50 for this one, it's good. And clarity, we want to bring down because we don't want a lot of unnecessary detail, especially in this area, it just looks too rough. These settings, although for a scene like this, are very, very useful in city settings, especially. So this is good for mostly everything you do. There may be some scenes where if it's basic, you might not even need to touch this, but for most things, you want to touch this. Next is color mixer. In this case, you want to have your scene consistent, right? In this case, we have the bridge, and then we have a weirdly orange here. So we're gonna actually target that. So we want to go under saturation, press this tool here, and we want to blend it in. About that good. So yeah, that's a little bit more consistent. You can actually bring it down even more. And here's where we're actually going to get into the color grading aspect of it. So depending on what your aesthetic is, we're going to go under that color. In this case, we're going under orange. And I think that's about good. Yeah, maybe a little more. And your highlights always want to be on the opposite side of the color wheel, in this case blue. Play around with it, maybe a little bit more on the purple end, this way. For this one, we're going to be looking at the sky, and I wanted to still keep that sunset. So I might go for like something like here. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to be keeping something like this. And this is pretty much all you're going to have to need to do for color grading. So once we've exported our background image, we want to remove the foreground from the background for the character, in this case Radius. So what we want to do is under the magic wand here and press select subject. You're gonna realize it is an AI, so it's not gonna be perfect, but this is where we come in. So you want to come in here, just click once, make sure you shift click. Here we want to remove that. That's just an imperfection. Here it's missing, so that's really the best we can do with here, because if we add too much, yeah. And lastly, this little area here. So all right. That's it for the image. There are easier ways to do it for this, like an online background remover, but there are downsides. So next we're going to go select, we're going to inverse, go to the moving tool. You're going to notice that if you try to move it, you're going to get a white background or a black background. This isn't optimal, as we want it to be transparent, so we want to press this lock right here and unlock it. We're gonna get that. Move the background, and we're gonna export this as well. And then we're gonna move on to Illustrator. All right, so once you're in Illustrator, you want to make an image that is the same width and height, same resolution, make sure it's on the highest possible setting, and then we're gonna create. So you're gonna notice that you're gonna have your thing, you wanna import this in, make sure you snap it. Next step is to get out any shape you want. In this case, we're gonna go for a hexagon, and you want for it to just be big enough to surround the main object in the scene. If you don't, just have it to where it's an appropriate size. In this case, we're gonna make a hexagon. I think this is a good size. Let's test it. It's a little small, so shift and bring it up. That should be good. All right. So we're gonna add a blur effect. So what we want to do is copy the background, paste it, move it to the side. And very important here, you want to copy this for later so that bringing this to the center, of course, I'll bring it to the center. There you go. And you want to go bring it up a layer, select both, make a clipping mask, bring it back, make sure again it's in the center. And then once you do this, we're gonna add the blur. You can add a lot of blurs. In this case, we're gonna add a radial blur. Gaussian blur is pretty thing, but we're gonna add radial. So it's as if it's like a movement at 10%, right? You're gonna notice that the scene is everywhere. It's blurry and there's gonna be a sharp line here. Here, we're gonna add the thing, make sure it's in the center. You have to play around with it. It's gonna do its thing. All right. Once you do that, click this. Make sure you go into properties, filled. Then you go under stroke, make sure it's white or whatever color you want. And in this case, I might want to make it 14 pixels. Right? That's pretty reasonable. Next thing you want to do is bring in the foreground without the background. So here we got the character. The rule of thumb here is make sure you just make sure shift so it comes up together. You want to make sure the whole thing is at the bottom. It covers the whole bottom. In this case, it's a little too small. A little bigger. All right. So that should be enough. Now, this is going to be the tricky part. You want to go under pen tool. Go to the edges of it because we're going to be cutting it off. So I want to go to this edge. Oh yeah, and to make it easier, because yeah, just bring up the polygon so you can actually see. Connect it here. Connect it here. And then for this part, you don't have to be precise. Just bring it around. And connect. And lastly, all you really have to do here is go back to select. Click your character. Click the path. And just make clipping mask, and you're done. That's the image.